At that moment, Claire realized their collaboration might have been too hasty. No royal man could be that simple. The Crawford family held significant military power, desired by both Prince Lance and, presumably, Prince Tan. Claire didn't care about the Crawfords, but if Prince Tan didn't care about them or her, what would become of her? As Claire looked at Prince Tan, he also gazed back at her, both with indescribable thoughts in their eyes. How could that be? This was a special gift from Prince Lance for my sister. How can a sister take her sibling's gift? Emily outwardly expressed sisterly love but harbored malice in her eyes. Claire felt disheartened by Prince Tan's sudden change of plans. If she followed his lead today, Emily would use Prince Tan's piano while she used the specially made one from Prince Lance, leading to rumors about her and Prince Lance being close. She had her own plans and didn't intend to play music for celebration. Prince Tan had previously informed her about issues with the music score, but now he had disrupted her plan. Claire smiled, stood up, glanced at Prince Tan, walked over, plucked the piano strings, and calmly said, "Perhaps Prince Tan doesn't know, but I value relationships highly. If these two pianos signify different statuses, please take yours back and let Prince Lance send another." After speaking, Claire pushed the piano Prince Tan gave to the ground, breaking its strings, rendering it unusable. Claire disliked being manipulated, and although Prince Tan had his reasons for gifting the piano, he hadn't communicated them beforehand, so she refused to cooperate. "The piano is broken, take it back, Prince Tan," Claire declared, unwilling to be used for someone else's benefit, and left. Enraged, she returned to her quarters and locked herself in, unaware of the outside happenings. However, Prince Tan's performance had ruined her original plan, despite their previous camaraderie and shared drinks on his birthday. Royal men indeed turned their backs faster than flipping a book. She shouldn't have trusted Prince Tan so easily. Sure enough, within a day, rumors spread wildly, claiming Prince Lance was deeply in love and had gifted Claire the eternal longing piano. "Miss, don't be upset by the outside gossip." But this time, Prince Lance went all out. It said the eternal longing piano pairs with the jade flute eternal companion held by Princess Amelia, Willow Green consoled. Willow Green heard it from someone and then relayed it to Claire Crawford. This statement piqued Claire Crawford's curiosity. Princess Amelia and General Phoenix Quinn had long been engaged, so if she possessed the longing hand, why was the longing heart in Prince Lance's possession? "Miss, Prince Lance is here," Snowfrost hurriedly reported, her face full of joy. Claire Crawford had a few unresolved questions and wanted to find answers from Prince Lance. She stood up to meet him. He appeared weary from travel, and upon seeing Claire Crawford, immediately asked, "What's wrong? Do you not like the longing heart zither I sent you?" It seemed Prince Lance was aware of the zither's identity. But why did Prince Qin claim it was specially crafted by Prince Lance? So this is the famous longing heart of the capital, but didn't Prince Qin say it was custom-made by Prince Lance? Claire Crawford feigned innocence. The more clueless a woman appeared, the more confident a man became. Thus, Prince Lance happily explained to Claire Crawford. "General Phoenix Quinn died in battle, and before his death, he gave me this zither. I intended to return it to Amelia, but my father, knowing you were diligently practicing, gave it to me instead." Even so, Claire Crawford still didn't understand what Prince Qin's intentions were. Phoenix Quinn and Prince Qin seemed to have a good relationship. Claire could only guess that Prince Qin was scheming something, possibly intending to use her. It seemed she really needed to think carefully. Chapter 20, Perhaps I collaborated too hastily. Miss, Prince Lance, and the second Miss are here, Willow Green announced just as Emily Crawford slowly approached with a tray of refreshments. Today, Emily Crawford was meticulously dressed, clearly aiming to win over Prince Lance. Prince Lance naturally didn't mind much, aside from being startled by Emily Crawford's scarred face on a previous occasion. Today, upon seeing her, he thought she wasn't too bad-looking after all. Though she was like a precious jade from a humble family, she was still pleasing to the eye. Emily Crawford bowed and greeted, "Your Highness Prince Lance, the kitchen has just prepared some snacks. My mother asked me to bring them for you to try." She glanced at Claire Crawford and smiled at her. Now, following her mother's wishes, she pretended to be demure and virtuous, but deep down, she harbored a trace of resentment that Claire Crawford could see through. I suddenly remembered I have something to do, Your Highness Prince Lance, please continue your conversation with my second sister. Claire Crawford understood Emily Crawford's intentions but didn't care. If Emily Crawford could have some incident with Prince Lance, Claire would be more than happy. Therefore, to create an opportunity for Emily Crawford, Claire left, allowing her to be alone with Prince Lance. As for Prince Lance, known for his lecherous nature, he likely wouldn't refuse Emily Crawford's voluntary offering. Or perhaps, in his heart, he was contemplating having both of them. Claire Crawford left the pavilion and, on her way back to the Peach Blossom Pavilion, was intercepted by Prince Tan. Prince Tan had climbed over the wall, and after much deliberation, decided to come and explain things to Claire Crawford. Perhaps he felt he could come today because Claire Crawford had celebrated his birthday with him. Prince Tan, you are quite bold. Aren't you afraid of being discovered by Prince Lance and affecting your brotherly relationship? Claire Crawford mocked, still upset about being caught in Prince Tan's schemes. Her anger had not yet subsided. Why is this little girl so temperamental? Prince Tan, unfazed, laughed and pulled Claire Crawford behind the rockery. Leaning against the stone, Prince Tan began, General Phoenix Quinn fell in battle, and the Tan family is in danger of being swallowed up. Phoenix Quinn had only one brother, and I regard General Phoenix Quinn as a brother. I cannot stand by and do nothing. The Empress Dowager gifted the eternal longing and eternal companionship. On Prince Lance's birthday, as long as the eternal longing appears, the Emperor will remember General Phoenix Quinn's sacrifice and spare the Tan family. Prince Tan's explanation seemed reasonable, but Claire Crawford was not easily swayed. For example, he had a few words that were unclear. Does Prince Tan consider me a fool? General Phoenix Quinn is the fiancé of Princess Amelia, yet you ask me to use Prince Lance's birthday as an excuse to play the eternal longing. Isn't that just to let the world know there is an unspoken connection between Prince Lance and General Phoenix Quinn? Prince Tan, what exactly are you planning? Claire Crawford almost guessed correctly, leaving Prince Tan speechless. There were certain things he dared not risk too much, but Claire Crawford managed to guess them. Prince Tan's silence indicated he did not trust her. The Northwest was victorious, but Prince Lance personally went there, and General Phoenix Quinn died on the battlefield. What secret lies within this? Claire Crawford did not want to know how General Phoenix Quinn died, but Prince Tan should not use her to achieve his goals. Claire Crawford smiled and took out the Prince Tan's token that she always carried with her. She gazed with a cold expression, as a gentle breeze carried a faint sense of detachment, her fingers playing with the Qin King's token. Initially, she wanted to collaborate with the Qin King, hoping to use him to escape the Marquis's residence. But now, it seemed that the Qin King was the most dangerous of all. He might even consume her to the point where nothing but bones remained. Your Highness, the Qin King, perhaps our collaboration was too hasty. Today, I return this token to you. From now on, we go our separate ways. Claire Crawford began to clearly distance herself from the Qin King, deciding not to cooperate any further. She wanted to find a new partner, but the Qin King was certainly not the best choice. However, after Claire Crawford handed the Qin King's token back to him, he immediately pressed her against a fake rock, his eyes narrowing dangerously. She could only clearly see the man's eyes, his face beneath the mask was something she had never seen. Don't move, the Qin King warned, stopping Claire Crawford's struggling arm, holding her in his embrace. What does Your Highness, the Qin King, mean by this? Claire Crawford sneered. Was he reluctant to let go, or did he intend to continue using her? If she hadn't discovered the clue this time, she might have been drawn into the power struggles within the imperial court of the capital. She didn't want to get too deeply involved, she just wanted to withdraw completely. Perhaps one day, upon opening her eyes, she could return to the world where she belonged, rather than being here, calculating and scheming every day. I apologize to you. This time, I used you. You've returned the Qin King's token, and I owe you a favor, the Qin King said, brushing away the tangled hair on Claire Crawford's forehead. Perhaps, in this world, the woman before him was one of the few who could stir his heart slightly. Yet, he felt no need to explain to anyone else. Claire Crawford heard the Qin King's words and thought that if a favor was given for free, it would be a waste not to take it. One day, if we need Prince Quin's help, please don't refuse, Claire Crawford said confidently. She had the ability to protect herself, and even if Prince Quin took action, he wouldn't be her match for the moment. After speaking, Prince Quin left the rockery. Claire Crawford also departed from the rockery and returned to Peach Blossom Pavilion, where only Willow Green was present. Snowfrost was nowhere to be found. "Miss, I have soaked fresh flower petals in water for you to wash your hands. Otherwise, your hands might dry and crack during the winter," Willow Green said. She was always around Claire Crawford, either embroidering patterns for her or finding ways to enhance her appearance. Soaking her hands in the fragrant water was incredibly soothing. Over the past few days, Claire Crawford had been practicing the zither and had learned quite a bit. While she couldn't claim to play exceptionally well, it wasn't too bad either. She was pondering over what to do next. Should she perform a duet with Emily Crawford at Prince Lance's birthday party, or should she expose Emily Crawford's schemes? In recent days, the music Emily Crawford taught her was only in segments. The complete piece, known in the underworld as the Devil's Music, had never been fully performed by Emily Crawford with her. She could not marry Prince Lance, she had to devise a perfect plan. Not long after, Snowfrost returned, carrying a faint scent of amber and a smile on her face. "Miss, will you be practicing the zither later? Should I bring the Chang Xiang Si into your room for you?" In the end, Emily Crawford did give her the Chang Xiang Si zither, and Snowfrost carefully stored it for Claire Crawford, fearing any mishap. Chapter 21, Framing Claire Crawford. A day before Prince Lance's birthday, Margaret Seymour whispered to Lord Crawford, suggesting he listen to the duet of Emily Crawford and Claire Crawford to ensure that the Crawfords wouldn't be embarrassed. Claire Crawford then went with Emily Crawford to the main hall. That day, Lord Crawford seemed to be in a good mood, and Claire Crawford learned something from those around him. The body of General Phoenix Quin had been returned to the Qin family, the military seal back in the Emperor's hands. The current head of the Qin family was Rose Quin, Phoenix Quin's brother, and most of the Qin family's power had shifted to Lord Crawford. Although Claire Crawford didn't inquire about these matters, there were things she needed to know. "Claire, just follow the steps I taught you before, you're very smart and learn quickly. With the Chang Xiang Si, you'll surely earn father's praise," Emily Crawford said with an innocent look, but Claire Crawford knew all too well what she was scheming. The zither in Claire's hands is the Chang Xiang Si that Prince Lance gifted her. "Today, thanks to Lord Crawford, I'm fortunate to see it," Margaret Seymour said, glancing at Emily Crawford, and they exchanged nods. "It's just a Chang Xiang Si. Once Claire enters Prince Lance's residence, what won't she have?" Lord Crawford desired more than a zither. Prince Lance's gift was not just for Claire Crawford, but for Lord Crawford himself. Naturally, Lord Crawford would support Prince Lance, helping him ascend to the position of Crown Prince, and the next step would be the throne. With a queen in the household, Lord Crawford would rightfully become the Emperor's father-in-law. "Begin, let me hear your duet," Lord Crawford said, and Claire Crawford and Emily Crawford sat together. The guitar in Emily Crawford's hands was nothing special. The household had money and could afford a valuable instrument, but it wasn't a renowned one. It seemed this time Emily Crawford was merely a backdrop for Claire Crawford, just making an appearance. However, when Claire Crawford and Emily Crawford played together, just as Emily was reaching an important part, she glanced at Claire beside her and flashed a smile full of intention. But right after, as Emily Crawford and Margaret Seymour were about to savor the joy of victory, the strings of the long yearning instrument in Claire Crawford's hands suddenly snapped. A broken string is not a good omen. The Marquis Crawford was also taken aback, staring at the renowned long yearning instrument for a long time. "Claire, why did you break the string?" Emily Crawford immediately spoke up. She didn't know what had happened, but she couldn't just watch as their near success crumbled. Margaret Seymour quickly added, "Marquis, Claire's string broke, it's likely not a good sign." This reminds me of over 10 years ago when someone from the Temple of Manhwa said Claire shouldn't enter the main hall. Indeed, over 10 years ago, such an incident occurred at the household. Someone claiming to be from the Temple of Manhwa had predicted that if Claire Crawford ever entered the main hall, it would bring disaster to the whole family. Margaret Seymour and Emily Crawford had initially planned to wait until Claire Crawford finished playing the piece before taking action, but now that the situation was interrupted, they had to act sooner. The longing melody is a renowned instrument, but it's broken now, Claire. On the day of Prince Lance's birthday banquet, let Emily play this piece herself. Lord Crawford seemed to waver and, after hearing Margaret Seymour's words, changed his mind. Claire Crawford looked at Lord Crawford, aware that he didn't genuinely care for her. But she also understood why Lord Crawford chose her to be Prince Lance's consort. The first wife had a family backing her, as did Margaret Seymour, but she had no support behind her. "Father, may I say a few words?" Claire Crawford calmly stood up, glanced at the longing melody, and lightly strummed the strings in her hand. Vincent nodded, wanting to hear what Claire Crawford had to say. "Margaret Seymour said I am an ill-fated person, didn't she?" Claire Crawford stood up, still holding a music score, and approached Emily Crawford. She continued, "Can you tell me, second sister, where exactly did the music score you taught me come from?" Emily Crawford was startled inside but still stood up calmly and replied, "Of course, it's the Phoenix seeking Phoenix." "Phoenix seeking Phoenix?" Claire Crawford let out a cold laugh, then, in front of Vincent and Margaret Seymour, raised her hand and slapped Emily Crawford. The scene was extremely tense. Emily Crawford, slapped by Claire Crawford, almost lost her balance, looking at Claire Crawford in disbelief. "You hit me? Why did you hit me, third sister?" "It's because you lack skill, have an ill-fated status, and ruined the renowned instrument longing melody." "Why are you taking your anger out on me? I've been teaching you to play, losing sleep and appetite. How can you be so ungrateful?" Emily Crawford acted pitifully, pretending to be very aggrieved. Margaret Seymour, seeing Claire Crawford hit Emily Crawford, naturally couldn't just stand by and watch. "Lord, look at her. How could she lay hands on Emily? As sisters, can't they talk things through instead of resorting to violence? If word gets out, people will say the daughters of the Crawfords are quarrelsome women, and the entire family will be implicated." Margaret Seymour tugged at Vincent's sleeve, looking aggrieved, while Emily Crawford's demeanor seemed to perfectly mimic Margaret Seymour's teachings. Vincent, now angry, scolded Claire Crawford, "What do you think you're doing? How dare you strike someone in front of me? Who gave you that right?" Claire Crawford had her reasons for acting. She glanced at Emily Crawford, grabbed her hand, and questioned, "Elder sister, take a closer look. Is this music piece the Phoenix seeking the Phoenix you gave me?" Emily Crawford took the music sheet from Claire Crawford and glanced at it, realizing it had been switched. "No, this isn't the one I gave you. Where did you find this sheet? I personally taught you the music, and now you accuse me with someone else's sheet?" Claire Crawford knew Emily wouldn't admit it, but seeing the switched sheet would surely frighten her. Because this was indeed the sheet Emily had taught her, but the one Emily gave Claire was the complete Phoenix seeking the Phoenix, while the sheet Emily taught her was actually the Western region's infamous ghost music, known as Phoenix Lament. "Elder sister, you're truly talented. You gave me the sheet in 3 parts, and it's known as Phoenix Lament, infamous as ghost music. Father, you must have heard of Phoenix Lament. If I had played it completely today, I might have gone mad and wouldn't be standing here before you." Before Vincent could question further, Emily Crawford suddenly knelt before him, crying, "Father, I didn't know. The sheet I gave to my younger sister was Phoenix seeking the Phoenix. I have witnesses. This sheet isn't the one I gave her." Chapter 22, Snowfrost betrays Claire Crawford. The key witness for Emily Crawford was none other than Snowfrost. When Snowfrost was called to testify, the most surprised was Willow Green. "Lord, I can prove that the second young lady gave my lady the Phoenix seeking the Phoenix score, not this Phoenix Lament score," Snowfrost said, kneeling on the ground, unable to meet Claire Crawford's eyes. Yet, she ultimately betrayed Claire Crawford. Furious, Willow Green stepped forward, grabbing Snowfrost and demanding, "The young lady treated you so well, rewarding you with everything. How could you betray her? Where is your conscience?" Despite Willow Green's questioning, Snowfrost remained resolute. Seeing this, Emily Crawford interjected, "Willow Green, Snowfrost has spoken the truth. I gave the Phoenix seeking the Phoenix score to my third sister." "Are you trying to force Snowfrost to lie?" Confused, Willow Green quickly knelt down, "Lord, my lady speaks the truth. You must believe her." Vincent seemed lost in thought, while Margaret Seymour spoke up, "Lord, look at this commotion. It all comes down to Claire not understanding the music scores. Our Emily is skilled in arts and music, yet she is treated this way. Lord, you must stand up for Emily. Margaret Seymour spoke as if Claire Crawford was causing trouble without reason, framing Emily Crawford. Father, I am not causing trouble without reason. I also have a witness, Claire Crawford said, signaling Spring Day to bring someone forward. Spring Day, a maid in charge of laundry, had been bullied because of a birthmark on her face until Claire Crawford saved her and brought her to Peach Blossom Pavilion. The person Spring Day brought forward was none other than Winter Snow, Emily Crawford's maid. Winter Snow knelt and declared, Lord, I can testify that the second young lady asked someone to buy the Phoenix Lament from Tianji Pavilion to secretly drive the third young lady mad in front of you. Here is the proof of the 1,000 gold taels I spent. Items from Tianji Pavilion always came with certificates, which Winter Snow handed to Vincent. The truth was now clear. Winter Snow, serving Emily Crawford, revealed who was plotting against whom. Seeing Vincent understand, Claire Crawford added fuel to the fire, kneeling, Father, I know my second sister has feelings for Prince Lance. If she truly loves him, I am willing to give up the position of Prince Lance's consort for her. Upon hearing the words Prince Lance's consort, Vincent realized the situation. Margaret Seymour and Emily Crawford's uproar was all about securing the position of Prince Lance's consort, aiming to eliminate Claire Crawford and marry into the prince's household. Feeling manipulated, Vincent slapped Margaret Seymour and angrily accused her, Look at the kind of daughter you've raised. Such a vicious heart. I think you should no longer manage the household. Let the First Lady take over, with Claire assisting to learn how to manage. Vincent's anger stemmed from being plotted against by Margaret Seymour. He wanted to ensure that the daughter with the potential to become an empress remained under his control. Vincent Crawford was unsuitable, as was Emily Crawford. Only the solitary Claire Crawford was suitable. By managing the father-daughter relationship well, Claire Crawford marrying into Prince Lance's household would mean he, as her father, would be the easiest to control. Therefore, Lord Crawford gave half of the household management rights to Claire Crawford, ensuring she felt grateful and knew she had a place in his heart. Thank you, Father. Father, since Snowfrost is from my courtyard, may I handle her myself? Claire Crawford wished to spare Snowfrost's life, as betrayal of a master typically resulted in being sold out of the household. Handle these minor matters yourself, and as for Chang Xiangxi, I will take care of it for you. With Vincent's assurance, Claire Crawford felt at ease. By doing so, she was indirectly helping Prince Tan. Previously, the Emperor had awarded Chang Xiangxi to General Phoenix Qin, and later Princess Amelia became his fiancée. Now, Prince Lance gave Chang Xiangxi to Claire Crawford, making her Prince Lance's future consort. This essentially meant the Crawfords would replace the Tan family. Claire Crawford used her inner strength to damage Chang Xiangxi, serving as a reminder to the Emperor that the Chang Xiangxi Prince Lance presented was connected to the deceased Phoenix Qin. The Emperor, not wanting to implicate Prince Lance, would not pursue the Tan family relentlessly. As long as Phoenix Qin's younger brother successfully became the head of the Tan family would be preserved. Claire Crawford brought Snowfrost back to the Peach Blossom Pavilion. At this point, Snowfrost knelt on the ground, and Willow Green, overwhelmed with emotion, slapped Snowfrost several times. Why did you betray the young lady? She treated us so well, why did you betray her? Willow Green and Snowfrost grew up together and were both assigned to serve Claire Crawford. Willow Green couldn't believe that Snowfrost would one day betray Claire Crawford. Facing Willow Green's heartbreak, Snowfrost continued to cry but refused to explain. The Peach Blossom Pavilion no longer has a place for you. Perhaps Prince Lance's residence will. At Prince Lance's birthday banquet, I will ask him to let you stay at his residence to fulfill your wish. He will honor my request. Hearing Claire Crawford's words, Snowfrost looked up at her in surprise. But Claire Crawford said nothing more. Snowfrost's change wasn't sudden but gradual. For instance, when facing Prince Lance, Snowfrost appeared particularly cheerful. That day, she returned to the Peach Blossom Pavilion first, leaving Emily Crawford and Prince Lance alone. Snowfrost even carried the distinctive amber scent of Prince Lance, indicating that there was an issue with her. Claire Crawford staged such a scene as a result. Willow green, take snowfrost away. Before leaving the peach blossom pavilion, she must not come near my room. Claire Crawford had shown enough concern for snowfrost. She wasn't heartbroken, just a bit disappointed. It was as if someone you collaborated with was plotting against you. Compared to Snowfrost's betrayal, Claire Crawford was more disappointed in Prince Tan. Yet, she still lent him a hand. At Prince Lance's birthday banquet, Claire Crawford did not play music but instead gifted a painting prepared by Vincent. It wasn't particularly outstanding, but it conveyed her sentiments. That day, she returned to the Peach Blossom Pavilion first, leaving Emily Crawford and Prince Lance alone. Snowfrost even carried the distinctive amber scent of Prince Lance, indicating that there was an issue with her. Claire Crawford staged such a scene as a result. Willow green, take snowfrost away. Before leaving the Peach Blossom Pavilion, she must not come near my room. Claire Crawford had shown enough concern for Snowfrost. She wasn't heartbroken, just a bit disappointed. It was as if someone you collaborated with was plotting against you. Compared to Snowfrost's betrayal, Claire Crawford was more disappointed in Prince Tan. Yet, she still lent him a hand. At Prince Lance's birthday banquet, Claire Crawford did not play music but instead gifted a painting prepared by Vincent. It wasn't particularly outstanding, but it conveyed her sentiments. No matter what Claire Crawford did that day, she would become the center of attention. She was the future consort of Prince Lance, possibly even the future crown princess, and many sought to curry favor with her. On that day, King Tan and Princess Amelia appeared at Prince Lance's residence. Unexpectedly, Princess Amelia asked Prince Lance for the eternal longing zither right on the spot. Prince Lance, the eternal longing and eternal companion zither are a pair. Could you return the eternal longing to Amelia? Princess Amelia was not known to be indiscreet, yet she asked for the zither in front of everyone. Everyone knew that General Phoenix Quinn always carried the eternal longing with him, indicating that Prince Lance and General Phoenix Quinn must have met before his death. Chapter 23, Then I will not marry you either. Prince Lance understood the implication of Amelia's words, but the Emperor had already decreed to annul the engagement between Amelia and General Phoenix Quinn. Why was she doing this? Before Prince Lance could respond, Claire Crawford stood up first. She slowly rose and addressed Princess Amelia. I'm sorry, Princess Amelia, but the eternal longing zither that Prince Lance sent to the Marquis residence had its strings accidentally broken due to my poor playing skills. The breaking of the zither strings was a shocking event. Claire Crawford dared to speak up because she knew the Emperor would not blame her. This was an opportunity to clarify the situation regarding the zither. Since the eternal longing is broken, there's no need to keep the eternal companion either. With that, Princess Amelia snapped the eternal companion zither in front of everyone. People believed Princess Amelia did this out of anger towards Claire Crawford, as General Phoenix Quinn was her fiancé, although the Emperor had quietly annulled the engagement. Only Claire Crawford realized that Princess Amelia had likely planned this in advance. She recalled that Vincent had told her not to worry about the eternal longing zither, suggesting her father had already dealt with it at the palace. That day, Prince Lance's residence was filled with music and dance. The Emperor used state affairs as an excuse for his absence but still bestowed many gifts, showing his favor towards Prince Lance. Claire Crawford brought up the topic of her maid, Snowfrost, with Prince Lance. Prince Lance, slightly inebriated, pulled her aside to explain. Did that girl say something to you? Don't mind her words. The only person I want to marry is you. No matter how many women there are in Prince Lance's residence, the only one I love is you, and you'll be the only consort of Prince Lance's residence. Hearing this, Claire Crawford felt nauseous. A man who could openly declare his infidelity was truly despicable. Then I thank Prince Lance on behalf of Snowfrost, Claire Crawford replied, wanting to avoid further entanglement with the drunken man. Prince Lance wanted to say more, but someone came and took him away. Claire Crawford was preparing to return alone when she accidentally bumped into Prince Tan, who was hastily coming from the other side of the hallway. Behind him was Tan Truck, a guard from Prince Lance's residence, chasing after him. In a moment of urgency, Prince Tan grabbed Claire Crawford and whispered in her ear, "We meet again, help me out." Judging by Prince Tan's demeanor, he must have entered an important area of Prince Lance's residence and taken something significant, which was why he was being pursued so fervently. Prince Tan, have you drunk yourself silly? This is Prince Lance's residence. Aren't you afraid of provoking him by teasing me? Claire Crawford's voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for Tan Truc to hear there. Conversation. Prince Tan, feigning drunkenness, responded nonchalantly, whether I'm drunk or not, I don't need a little girl like you to lecture me. By this time, Tan Truc had caught up, and Prince Tan quickly slipped a secret message into Claire Crawford's chest before Tan Truc pulled him away. Miss Crawford, I apologize for the oversight of Prince Lance's residence, Tan Truc said, acknowledging that Claire Crawford's disturbance was due to their lack of oversight. Claire Crawford frowned slightly and replied, if you know it's poorly managed, don't let drunkards appear next time, or it will ruin my reputation. She pretended to be angry while Tan Truc searched Prince Tan carefully. Meanwhile, Claire Crawford left, worried that Tan Truc might realize what had happened. Prince Tan continued to cooperate, questioning Tan Truc angrily, what are you doing, Tan Truc? Searching me? Ask Prince Lance if I need to be searched. Would Prince Lance refuse me anything I want? Tan Truc glanced at Prince Tan, not understanding why his master was so wary of him. Seeing Prince Tan act drunk and causing a scene didn't seem like he could do anything in secret. Meanwhile, as Claire Crawford reached the door, the guards naturally didn't dare to stop her, allowing her to leave Prince Lance's residence directly. In the carriage, Claire Crawford instructed the driver to stop at the street nearby, wanting to have some tea at a tea house. The servants naturally didn't dare interfere with their master's leisure, especially since Claire Crawford was currently assisting the senior lady in managing affairs, so no one dared say anything. Prince Tan arrived at the tea house half an hour later. In a private room, Claire Crawford left the secret message unopened on the table. Aren't you going to open it? Prince Tan asked, noticing that Claire Crawford hadn't opened the letter. She took a sip of tea and replied, I'm not interested. Whatever secrets the message held and how many people it implicated, she had no interest. If Prince Tan wanted to talk, she would listen, if not, they would go their separate ways. Today was a minor matter, and she wouldn't seek any reward from him. Whether the throne belonged to the Li family or the Wang family in the future, it had nothing to do with her. Prince Lance won't become the emperor, and if you marry him, you'll have a hard time, Prince Tan seemed to advise, though his words carried a hint of bitterness. Claire Crawford put down her teacup, looked into Prince Tan's eyes, only seeing his charming gaze, and retorted, oh? If Prince Lance can't be emperor, I shouldn't marry him, but what about you, Prince Tan? Prince Tan didn't expect Claire Crawford to ask this, and with a hint of frustration, he replied, if I could become emperor. Then I still wouldn't marry you, Prince Tan. Don't flatter yourself. She said, and instead of being angry, Prince Tan laughed, amused. Claire Crawford was serious. After all this time, she had come to understand the intentions of those in the royal family. Marriage was merely political, whether it was Prince Lance or Prince Tan. All they wanted was the power held by Vincent. It's not that Vincent can marry off his daughter to just anyone, it's about who has the capability to marry the Crawford's daughter. Currently, Vincent values her the most, so if she marries Prince Lance, Vincent will become the greatest support for Prince Lance. Fine, it was my own wishful thinking. This secret report contains the real cause of General Phoenix Quinn's death, urgently sent by the military doctor from 800 miles in the northwest. The military doctor is now dead, leaving only this report. Claire Crawford had somewhat guessed that General Phoenix Quinn's death in the Northwest battle was related to Prince Lance. She also suspected that her father might be involved in this matter, otherwise, Prince Lance wouldn't use her as bait. Unfortunately, she didn't want to deal with these issues. Chapter 24, My Limited Vision. Claire Crawford remained silent as Prince Lance continued speaking. The third Miss Crawford is a sheltered lady, but she doesn't know that in this capital, those who enjoy life and wield power are the ones above the clouds. Perhaps in their hearts, as long as the Northwest doesn't fall and the borders remain stable, the capital won't be threatened, and their enemies will never pose a threat to them. That day, Prince Lance had been drinking, though not much, yet his words were many. Because of this secret report, he seemed deeply pained as he spoke to Claire Crawford, as if he wasn't really speaking to her but to someone else who couldn't hear him. so he spoke to Claire Crawford instead. But, beyond thousands of miles, in places those above the clouds can't see, there aren't just tens of thousands of soldiers, but also my people. Are their lives worth being manipulated by those above the clouds? General Phoenix Qin, who defended the Northwest, ended up wrapped in a horsehide. Prince Lance clutched the letter tightly, filled with passion with no outlet. Claire Crawford had heard of General Phoenix Qin's reputation, how he volunteered for the Northwest battle, a man with a heart for the world. She couldn't deny that Prince Lance was the same. At one time, she too was dedicated to her country and people, only to be betrayed by corrupt officials, which led to the death of the one who loved her most in this life. Returning to a previous life, she thought she shouldn't fall into the same trap again, walking the path she once did. Prince Qin, saying such things to a maiden like me is rather amusing. My vision is limited, I only see what's in front of me and not the grand notions of serving the country and its people that you speak of, Claire Crawford said, then stood up, glancing at Prince Qin. Her eyes, red under the mask, revealed that he was not her fiancé. She shouldn't fall into this again. As she was about to leave, Prince Qin grabbed her arm. So, even if your father caused the death of such a hero, you wouldn't feel a thing? Claire Crawford didn't answer for a long time, and Prince Qin released her arm. Very well, it seems I overestimated you. I thought your perspective would differ from your father's. Thank you for your kindness, I will repay it, he said before leaving the tea room. Watching his lonely figure, Claire suddenly felt a strange familiarity. She knew some people have their beliefs, but she didn't want to be involved. Was that wrong? When Claire returned home, she intended to greet Vincent and mention her plan to send Snowfrost to Prince Lance's residence as a spy, hoping to gain more of Vincent's trust. But as she approached the door, she overheard a conversation inside. Prince Lance has ordered that whether he's the one who took the secret report or not, we must act by midnight tomorrow to kill him. He will surely visit the Qin residence to pay respects and will stay there, Vincent instructed his trusted shadow guards. Claire knew of this secret group, though few in the household had seen them. Fortunately, Claire had exceptional hearing and could listen to the conversation from outside. She was startled, her mind racing. Who's at the door? Vincent asked, hearing someone outside. Father, your daughter has returned to greet you, Claire replied, adjusting her expression and smiling before slowly entering with a docile demeanor. Ah, you're back. Did you enjoy your time with Prince Lance? Vincent asked, though his words were mere formalities. Claire understood that even if she expressed disinterest, Vincent wouldn't allow her to sever ties with Prince Lance, nor would he support her openly. Father, Prince Lance is very kind. I've discussed with him about sending Snowfrost to his residence. She knows what to do, and it will help you, Claire said, surprising Vincent. In his mind, Claire was always someone naive, and despite her recent changes, he didn't expect her to be so astute. Now, she was offering to send a woman to Prince Lance's residence, even to his bed. Was it truly just for him? Father, once I marry into Prince Lance's household, I can only rely on you. I want to do something for you, Claire continued, convincing Vincent. Very well, you have indeed matured. With your words, I can be at ease. Rest assured, as long as we are united, I will always be your support, Vincent said, though his words felt somewhat insincere. Claire couldn't expose this. Father, tomorrow I wish to go out for a stroll, shop a bit, and in the evening, visit the Manhwa temple to pray for blessings for you, the household, and myself. Such a small request wasn't unreasonable, and Vincent naturally didn't think much of it. You are now assisting the head wife in managing the household, so where can't you go? A young lady should broaden her horizons. I heard Princess Amelia has a good impression of you, you should interact with her more, Vincent advised. Claire acknowledged this before leaving. Her mind was filled with Vincent's orders for the shadow guards, and that night, she dreamt of Prince Qin being pierced through the chest with a sword, staring at her before dying. Those eyes resembled her fiancé's too much, reminding her of how he looked before his death. Startled awake from a nightmare, Claire Crawford couldn't fall back asleep. So, as soon as dawn broke, she went to Snowfrost's room. We've been master and servant for a while. I've arranged your future prosperity, but how long you can keep Prince Lance depends on your own abilities. Snowfrost didn't quite understand Claire Crawford and quickly knelt to express her gratitude. "Thank you, miss, for your concern for Snowfrost. I am indebted to you and will repay you in the next life." Claire Crawford let out a cold laugh. "Don't talk about the next life. No one knows what you'll be then. Repay me in this life. Take this, and I'll send someone with the antidote each month." The concoctions Claire Crawford had been preparing in the pharmacy at Peach Blossom Pavilion were finally put to use. Snowfrost's face turned pale. She didn't want to take it, didn't want to be threatened. "Don't want to? Fine, then I'll inform Prince Lance's residence that you took your own life out of guilt towards me." As Claire Crawford stood up, Snowfrost swallowed the small pill. Claire Crawford had expected this. "Remember, protect yourself well, don't trust others easily, and keep yourself alive to repay me." With that, Claire Crawford left, leaving Snowfrost to rely on her own skills to remain useful. Chapter 25. What does a life and death companion look like? The next morning, Claire Crawford left the house early, alone. Before leaving, she instructed Willow Green to let Snowfrost go with the people from Prince Lance's residence when they arrived. She gave Willow Green and Snowfrost time to say their goodbyes, but some things were inevitable and couldn't be changed. Frankly, even if Willow Green felt uncomfortable, there was nothing to be done. Snowfrost's betrayal was expected, and her fate was sealed. Although Claire Crawford claimed to be out shopping, she was actually wandering outside the market, even sitting at a tea house nearby, very close to the Qin residence. She pondered deeply and eventually saw Prince Qin in purple robes, holding a bone fan, heading to the Qin residence. "How outrageous," Claire Crawford muttered. The Qin family was in mourning, yet he appeared in such attire. Even Princess Amelia, despite no longer being engaged to General Phoenix Quinn, wore white to the Qin residence. Rose Quinn, having lost her brother, seemed entirely different from the last time Claire saw her at the palace feast, more composed, yet more frail. Claire Crawford continued to watch from the tea house, lost in thought, feeling she couldn't let go. Perhaps it was because of that dream. Claire Crawford was restless all day. Those piercing eyes were unforgettable, and perhaps, from the start, her decision to collaborate with Prince Qin was due to those eyes. Now knowing the people at the Qin residence were in danger, Claire Crawford maintained a calm exterior, speaking firmly with Prince Qin that day, but inside, she was anxious and uneasy. In truth, Claire Crawford's presence here was quite pointless. With so many people coming and going, she couldn't possibly meet those who wanted to assassinate King Tan. Eventually, Claire decided to leave, opting to take a stroll outside, grab a bite to eat, or perhaps buy some jewelry. After all, shopping is what lifts a woman's spirits when she's feeling down. Thus, Claire spent the entire afternoon in a jewelry shop. She spent the morning drinking tea at a tea house and the afternoon in the jewelry store without buying anything. Finally, after the Tan residence closed its doors to visitors, she quietly climbed over the wall into the estate. Even now, she hesitated, not wanting to get involved with King Tan, as he was a dangerous figure who had once used her without hesitation and did not trust her. She could be schemed against at any moment. Although King Tan was clever, choosing to get entangled with him meant stepping into danger. Therefore, she felt a bit disdainful towards herself, never having been so indecisive before. The eyes from that nightmare kept flashing in her mind. Claire quietly sneaked into the Tan residence, which was currently under the management of Rose Quinn, whose oversight was somewhat lax. Claire had been blending in for quite some time without being noticed. She hid in the shadows and quickly found King Tan's quarters, but the courtyard was unusually quiet, not like a place where an assassination would occur. Yet Claire knew that the calm before the storm was always unpredictable. She even found it a bit amusing that she risked coming to the Tan residence to save King Tan. Thinking of this made her feel a bit embarrassed. She wore a veil, with everything prepared, yet she hadn't decided whether to reveal herself. Just as she turned to leave, shaking her head, King Tan opened the door, making it impossible for her to escape. "Did you come to see me?" King Tan had noticed Claire outside the door long ago, but since she kept pacing back and forth without entering, he decided to come out. Claire was truly embarrassed now. She couldn't leave, nor could she stay. However, before she could speak, assassins suddenly attacked. Claire ultimately reported the threat too late. In the critical moment, King Tan grabbed her hand and realized the truth about her visit. "It seems you can't bear to let me die, can you?" At this point, King Tan no longer doubted Claire, as these assassins couldn't have been brought by her. No one appeared in the Tan residence, leaving only two possibilities: either Rei Qin had been bribed to watch King Tan die in his own home, or everyone in the residence had been drugged. "Following you is truly unlucky. It seems my good intentions were wasted, and today I have to risk my life with you." Claire Crawford truly felt that her hesitation could be her downfall. Knowing this, she regretted coming. Why did she allow herself to become indecisive because of a pair of eyes? Being pulled along by the King of Qin, even flying out of the Qin residence with him, in that moment, Claire Crawford genuinely felt the sensation of being protected by a man. It was similar to the feeling of being protected by her fiancé, even watching him sacrifice his life for her. Unfortunately, they were eventually surrounded. The attackers were a group of men in black, each wearing iron masks. They were merely death warriors, acting on orders from their master. Therefore, Claire Crawford was safe because these warriors only killed those they were instructed to. "You should leave. Your kindness in warning me is noted, they won't harm you," the King of Qin said as he led Claire Crawford out of the Qin residence, worried she would be trapped there. Once outside, Claire Crawford could naturally find her way home. As she was pushed out, the men in black did not surround her. It was at this moment that Claire Crawford began to misunderstand the King of Qin, thinking perhaps he had used her that day. In life and death moments, true intentions are revealed. Although she had come to warn him of assassins, it ultimately served no purpose and provided no defense, yet the King of Qin still pushed her to safety at a critical moment, proving himself a true gentleman. "Do you know who these people belong to? Are you sure you want me to leave?" In fact, there was another option. For example, she could remove her veil and use her identity to deter the death warriors. As warriors of the Marquis' household, they would recognize Claire Crawford and not dare to act against her. However, doing so would mean Vincent would abandon her upon her return, placing her in a difficult situation. "The king does not need a woman's protection," the King of Qin said, able to fight and converse with Claire Crawford as if they were merely chatting. Claire Crawford watched the King of Qin, considering whether to join the fight. Turning a blind eye in such a situation was against her nature. Coming to warn him was already a gesture of goodwill. So, she was still contemplating whether to intervene, knowing that if she did, no one present would survive, ensuring Vincent would remain unaware of the night's events. As Claire Crawford pondered, the death warriors employed a five-man formation. Despite only being five, they managed to trap the highly skilled King of Qin. The iron chains in their hands were not just for show, aimed at the king's vital points. Claire Crawford focused on the leader outside the five-man formation. They did not attack her, but she did not leave. "I suppose you're wondering why I haven't left, right?" Claire Crawford intended to first talk to the leader of the death warriors, but before she could, the King of Qin was already struggling. He was wounded on the arm by a sword, and Claire Crawford could no longer just watch. She rushed forward at top speed, removing her veil, and while the man was shocked, she quickly stabbed her hairpin into the heart of the death warrior. Then, leaping to stand beside the King of Qin, she said, "Your Highness, it seems if they don't die today, we will die tomorrow." Claire Crawford laughed and added, "However, today I'm risking myself to accompany a gentleman. Shouldn't you remove your mask, in case something happens, so I know what the person I'm facing life and death with looks like?" Chapter 26, A glance of eternity. However, before the Qin king could remove his mask himself, one of the assassins shattered it. The mask fell to the ground while Claire Crawford, with her back to the Qin king, was trying to break the formation of the five assassins and didn't get a chance to see him. Seeing Claire Crawford in action, the assassins deemed her a target for elimination. "How dare you attack me? I am the third daughter of the Marquis' household, Claire Crawford, and the future consort of Prince Lance. How dare you lay a hand on me?" Seizing the opportunity when one assassin was distracted, Claire coordinated seamlessly with the Qin king, and together they swiftly killed the assassin behind their opponent, leaving only 3 assassins remaining. Claire smiled slightly, then turned to look at the Qin king. But she was not prepared for the fact that some people, with just one glance, seemed to last an eternity. "Lance Stewart." She uttered the name, but she wasn't mistaken. The face was identical to her fiancé's, yet she was certain he was not Lance Stewart. Claire was momentarily stunned, nearly getting injured by an assassin from behind, but the Qin king pulled her towards him, thrusting his sword through the chest of the assassin. Claire also swiftly dealt with the assassin behind the Qin king. However, the last assassin suddenly threw an unknown white powder into the Qin king's eyes. Without hesitation, Claire shielded the Qin king. The assassin's sword pierced Claire's shoulder, and although the Qin king's vision was blurred, he could still see clearly. The bone fan in his hand pierced through the last assassin's throat, and both of them fell to the ground. This place was dangerous, and they needed to leave. "I'll take you away," Claire said, seeing the Qin king injured, preparing to support him, but he grabbed her shoulder. "My surname is Stewart, Eric Stewart. Next time, don't call the wrong name." Although the Qin king's vision was blurred, he saw everything clearly. For instance, Claire Crawford shielding him without hesitation, preventing him from getting hurt. When a woman shields a man, what does it mean? The Qin king couldn't understand Claire Crawford, nor could he fathom what she was thinking. Initially, she wanted nothing more than to sever all ties with him and avoid involvement in this matter, yet moments later, she was willing to take a sword for him. Why was that? Was it just because of his face? Injured and still talking too much? "Get up, I'll take you away." Claire Crawford was bleeding, but she was already used to it. In the past, during missions, she had suffered much more severe injuries than this, which is why she could resiliently support Prince Qin out of this tumultuous place. Prince Qin also knew they couldn't stay long. As Claire Crawford helped him, he accidentally touched the sticky blood and remembered that Claire was also injured. He couldn't understand why there was a woman like her. Did she not feel pain? She didn't utter a word of complaint, just silently led him away. Prince Qin said nothing in the end, returning with Claire Crawford to the Qin residence. She was fortunate to have arranged for someone to impersonate her at the Manhwa temple, claiming she would stay there overnight. Otherwise, she wouldn't know how to explain herself. At the Qin residence, Prince Qin being injured was a serious matter. Claire Crawford said nothing more, just sat there watching him. The residence had a physician specializing in treating Prince Qin's eyes, so she didn't need to worry, but now that she was safe with him, her heart was troubled. For instance, this wasn't the same world, yet there were two people who looked exactly the same. While Claire Crawford was lost in thought, the person's eyes had healed, and somehow he was already beside her, squatting down to look at her. "What are you doing?" Claire Crawford instinctively moved back, only to have Eric Stewart grab her wrist and firmly say, "Don't move." Eric Stewart took out medicine and bandages, squatting in front of her. "I've never seen a lady as strong as you. Doesn't it hurt when you're injured?" As Eric Stewart applied the medicine, Claire Crawford felt her consciousness blur. The face identical to another had once asked her the same question. Back then, she had been disdainful, even hurting the other person. With guilt in her heart, Claire Crawford felt her mind was muddled and uncomfortable. "It hurts," Claire Crawford mumbled. The man quickly bandaged her wound, looked up at her, and found her crying. He knew Claire Crawford well enough to understand that she was a woman tougher than tears, not easily moved to cry. "Does it hurt so much that you're crying?" Eric Stewart asked. Claire Crawford only then realized she was shedding tears, quietly, like on that snowy day when she had held her fiancé's body and silently cried. Tears, the most cowardly thing, yet she had given them to the same face twice. "I should go now." Claire Crawford suddenly stood up, only to be pulled back by Eric Stewart, who pressed her against the wall behind her. In that moment, Eric Stewart stared intently at Claire Crawford. "Why did you risk your life to save me? If that assassin hadn't missed, you would have been a corpse." Death wasn't frightening. What was frightening was regret, endless regret that could drive a person insane. She didn't want to regret again. "Your Highness, you have a very beautiful face," Claire Crawford said as she pushed Eric Stewart away. Now she was very sure, and very clear-headed. The faces were identical, yet they were not the same person. "I will escort Miss Crawford back," said Prince Eric as he noticed Claire Crawford was about to leave. To Eric Stewart, Claire Crawford was a mysterious and intriguing figure. He was curious about how she perceived him. This curiosity piqued his interest, and he wondered who she truly was. "Thank you, Your Highness," Claire replied instinctively, wishing to distance herself from Eric Stuart, yet she couldn't help but be drawn to him. Past grievances left her unable to let go, leaving her mind in turmoil. Prince Eric prepared the carriage, and as soon as Claire Crawford got in, she became lost in thought. Eric Stuart, sitting beside her, said nothing, merely observing her, unsure of what occupied her mind. It wasn't until the carriage reached the Marquis's residence that Eric spoke. "Miss Crawford, we've arrived at the Marquis's estate." Claire snapped back to reality, realizing they had reached their destination. She took a deep breath. "Your Highness, you must know that I learned of your troubles from my father. Do you think, if I intended to rescue you in the middle of the night, I could simply return to the Marquis's estate?" Eric was momentarily taken aback, unable to respond to her rebuttal. "That was my mistake," he admitted with a smile, then instructed the carriage to turn back. Claire looked at Eric, feeling guilty towards her fiancé, but their conversations had always been like this, and she couldn't change their dynamic. Suddenly, she realized that facing this familiar face, she could never control her emotions. "Take me to the Temple of Manhwa," she requested. Claire needed to return before dawn, fearing discovery. As the third daughter of the Marquis family, being caught outside at night would raise suspicions. Losing Vincent's trust would put her in danger. The carriage stopped at the foot of the mountain leading to the Temple of Manhwa, unable to go further. If she climbed the mountain, it would be morning by the time she arrived. "If I say something nice, will you let me accompany you up the mountain, ensuring no one discovers us?" Eric suggested, only to have Claire step on his foot in response. Chapter 27, Persuading Prince Lance. That day, Claire Crawford was finally taken to the Manhwa Palace by Eric Stuart. The path up the mountain was quite long, but Eric Stuart carried Claire, using his exceptional martial arts to avoid encountering others. As soon as Claire entered the room, there was a knock at the door. "Who is it?" Both Claire Crawford and Eric Stuart were inside, and it was barely dawn. A knock at this hour suggested something was amiss. "Third Miss, it's Ruby Moon. The First Madam sent me to bring you home. She was worried as you didn't return last night." Despite her words, Ruby Moon seemed intent on barging in, clearly up to no good. Claire opened the door, pushing Ruby Moon outside before stepping out herself. "Ruby Moon, my father knows I'm at Manhwa Palace today, and the First Madam surely knows as well. I'll return shortly." Claire's shoulder injury was painful, but she couldn't show any weakness in front of Ruby Moon. "Third Miss, the First Madam instructed me to take good care of you and ensure you're not uncomfortable." With that, she attempted to enter Claire's room again. Claire grabbed her arm, narrowing her eyes. "Ruby Moon, think carefully. Are you sure the First Madam will protect your insignificant life against my father if you offend me?" Ruby Moon's eyes trembled. This wasn't an idle threat. She knew Claire was no longer the same. Previously, anyone could bully Claire, but now, not everyone could. "Third Miss, what are you saying?" Ruby Moon hesitated, not daring to move forward. Claire put away her dagger, removed a jade bracelet from her wrist, and took Ruby Moon's hand. "I'm about to marry into Prince Lance's household." "Ruby Moon, you're smart. Some things are set in stone and can't be changed. You should know that those who understand the times are wise. This bracelet looks beautiful on you." Ruby Moon accepted the bracelet, acknowledging Claire's goodwill. This way, Claire protected Eric Stuart in the room. If Ruby Moon discovered Eric was still there, it could cause a scandal. After Ruby Moon left, Claire prepared to leave Manhwa Palace. Before she left, Eric Stuart grabbed her arm, placing the best healing ointment from his residence in her hand. "Tell me, why did you save me?" "Why?" Claire smiled without answering. She couldn't possibly tell him it was because he resembled her fiancé. Claire descended the mountain, with Eric following. Unexpectedly, they encountered Prince Lance on the way. Claire's carriage was blocked by Prince Lance's. "I heard you went to Manhwa Palace to pray for blessings? Praying for love, perhaps?" Prince Lance remained as confident as ever, assuming Claire was honored to have a chance to become his consort. Little did he know, Claire had no interest whatsoever. How did Prince Lance know that the lady was at the Manhwa temple? Claire Crawford didn't believe that Prince Lance happened upon her by chance. Of course, I went to the Marquis's residence and was informed that you went to the Manhwa temple to pray, so I personally came to escort you back. For Prince Lance, that was already a considerable gesture. However, Prince Lance stopped Claire Crawford's carriage, showing no intention of letting her leave. Your Highness Prince Lance, do you think there is someone hidden in my carriage? Claire Crawford wasn't a fool. Prince Lance kept looking around, and Ruby Moon previously acted as if they were catching an affair. She truly didn't understand where these people got their evidence from. How could they be so sure? She was involved with another man? If Claire Crawford weren't strong-minded, she might have been frightened by now, but currently, she wasn't afraid of Prince Lance at all. Miss Crawford, you're overthinking. I just came to visit you. After speaking, Prince Lance glanced at Claire Crawford and said, how about this, I'll personally take you back in the carriage. With that, he lifted the curtain of the carriage. Inside, it was spacious, but only Claire Crawford was there. Prince Lance got into the carriage, seeing no one else, yet still feeling suspicious, though he had no evidence. What did the third Miss Crawford seek at the Manhwa temple? Prince Lance asked. Claire Crawford didn't know what Prince Lance was suspecting, but she understood that he must have some unexpected doubts to be thinking so wildly. Naturally, what any woman would wish for, Claire Crawford thought she could make use of Prince Lance. She hadn't returned all night and was unsure of what had happened at the Marquis's residence, but it surely wasn't anything good. I prefer to speak directly, Prince Lance said, observing the carriage, which indeed didn't seem to be hiding anyone, yet he remained somewhat doubtful. I prefer it too, so your Highness should speak plainly, Claire Crawford replied, not fond of beating around the bush. Prince Lance smiled and asked, in Prince Lance's residence, is there any entanglement with you and the Duke? Did you spend the night at the Manhwa temple alone or with someone? As soon as he asked, he found it amusing. Claire Crawford used to think Prince Lance was quite intelligent, but now he seemed a bit foolish. Your Highness, do you think I would secretly meet with the Duke before the grand wedding? You are the most noble man in this capital, do you not even have this bit of confidence? What benefit would I gain from choosing the Duke? Prince Lance, being both arrogant and conceited, was indeed struck by her words. He was the favored son of heaven, what was the Duke compared to him? A disgraced prince whom even the Emperor ignored, how could he be compared to Prince Lance? True, Prince Lance nodded. The carriage slowly arrived at the Marquis's residence. Claire Crawford did not get off immediately but looked at Prince Lance and said, Your Highness, I am soon to be your princess. I hope you and I will stand on the same side, not with others. Claire Crawford vaguely sensed that there might be changes at the Marquis's residence, so she needed someone of high status and capability to stand with her. No matter what evidence others presented, as long as this person believed in her, others' words would be meaningless. Of course, let's go, I'll personally take you home, Prince Lance said as he stepped out of the carriage, extending his hand to her. This time, Claire Crawford was not at all reserved. She smiled, took his hand, and allowed him to assist her down from the carriage, confidently walking into the Marquis's residence, which indeed was filled with a sense of tension. Chapter 28, Which wild man gave you this? They went straight to Peach Blossom Pavilion. As expected, chaos reigned inside, the maids and servants were all dragged into the courtyard. Willow Green was beaten and covered in blood, while Spring Day was tied up and pushed aside. Claire Crawford knew today would be anything but peaceful. Claire Crawford, look at what you've done. Are these things yours? The matron ordered her people to throw everything they had searched onto the ground. These were all gifts from Prince Eric Stuart, small and delicate items. If any item linked to Prince Eric was found, Claire Crawford would be in trouble today. Yet, faced with the matron's questioning, Claire Crawford showed no fear and even smiled. At this moment, Emily Crawford and Margaret Seymour finally appeared. Emily laughed and asked, These items are worth a fortune, Claire. Where did you get the money to buy them? Which wild man gave them to you? Claire already knew what they intended to do. It seemed that during the day and night of her absence, the matron and Margaret Seymour had finally found a way to cooperate. Margaret, though under house arrest, managed to persuade the matron to release her. They wanted to join forces to eliminate her, the future consort of Prince Lance, and then fight among themselves for the position. It was a clever plan. Unfortunately, Emily's questioning came too soon. Willow Green and Spring Day, her close allies, had likely been beaten, and nothing could be extracted from them. Thus, Emily wanted to intimidate her. But it was too risky and backfired. Emily rummaged through several jewelry boxes and randomly took out a jade hairpin, waving it in front of everyone. The quality of the jade hairpin was excellent, with beautiful color. "This hairpin, madam, what do you think it's worth?" Emily believed that the more valuable an item, the more likely it was a gift from a man. Emily's suspicion was correct, and the matron smiled triumphantly, saying, "This hairpin is priceless just by its color. Claire, why don't you tell us, which wild man gave it to you? How does a young lady like you have such a precious hairpin?" The matron's questioning and Emily's jealousy became sharp blades. Claire, however, calmly stepped forward, took the jade hairpin from Emily's hand, and with a mischievous smile, turned and asked, "What does His Highness Prince Lance think?" Emily didn't understand Claire's intent and angrily said, "His Highness Prince Lance won't be swayed by you. You have an engagement with him yet consort with other men. If father finds out, he'll be furious, and you'll disgrace the Crawfords." Her words seemed reasonable and justified. "This hairpin was a gift from me," Prince Lance said, leaving everyone, including Emily, stunned. The matron and Margaret Seymour had meticulously planned everything, but they hadn't expected the hairpin to be a gift from Prince Lance to Claire Crawford. Claire had previously accepted gifts from Prince Eric, but they weren't as valuable as those from Prince Lance, which she truly cherished. Although she didn't particularly like them, the items were valuable and could be exchanged for money if needed. "It seems the wild man my dear sister and the matron mentioned is none other than His Highness Prince Lance," Claire said, glancing at Prince Lance with feigned grievance. As she had stated, Prince Lance had to choose her side. Now, as his future consort, she was being bullied. Shouldn't Prince Lance show some manly spirit? Of course. Therefore, Prince Lance was dissatisfied. Just as Vincent arrived, he overheard Prince Lance questioning, "Madam, if you sent someone to find me just to show me that the future princess consort of mine is unfaithful, then I have overestimated you." After saying this, the old lady's face was truly unsightly. Vincent, having heard these words, naturally had to inquire a bit. "What happened?" Vincent appeared at just the right moment, and before others could react, Claire Crawford quickly responded. She swiftly knelt in front of Vincent, tears streaming down her face. "Father, the Madam and Margaret Seymour recklessly entered my courtyard, attacking my people and searching through my personal belongings. Look, they even accused the hairpin Prince Lance gave me as a gift from some wild man. I am truly humiliated, Father." Claire Crawford cried and made a scene, kneeling on the ground in tears, determined not to let them off easily. Seeing this, Vincent roughly understood what had happened. At this moment, Prince Lance appeared gentle, approached, and helped Claire Crawford up, pretending to support her. "Marquis, we were just worried that Claire might go astray. As the mistress of the Marquisate, I naturally have to think about Claire's well-being, fearing she might take a wrong step and ruin the family." The madam's words were somewhat forced, but this time Claire Crawford had Prince Lance backing her up. He wanted to show off in front of her, and she naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity. Moreover, Prince Lance was likely touched that she cherished the hairpin so much, believing she valued it highly, and would surely stand up for her. So, no matter how much of a fuss she made today, it would be resolved perfectly. Deception is the specialty of vile people. "Father, I am wronged and feel aggrieved," Claire Crawford sobbed, and Prince Lance didn't just stand by. He stepped forward, approached Vincent, and said, "Vincent, if this is the family discipline of the Marquisate, then I can't imagine how much hardship the future princess consort of mine has endured." Vincent was taken aback. He had thought that Prince Lance marrying Claire Crawford was simply because he chose her, and Prince Lance was being polite. But today, Vincent suddenly realized that Prince Lance seemed to have feelings for Claire Crawford. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come today, let alone speak up for her. Today, his daughter caused such a scene, indicating she knew Prince Lance would support her. Vincent understood a bit more and didn't think Claire Crawford was bad, he believed she was skilled and could win over Prince Lance. Choosing Claire Crawford was the right decision, more correct than with other daughters. Look at you, causing such a commotion. If you can't manage the Marquisate, then don't manage it anymore. As soon as Vincent spoke, the madam knew she had lost. After all, with Prince Lance here supporting Claire Crawford, she couldn't avoid responsibility. As the madam of the Marquisate, although Margaret Seymour was involved, she wouldn't bear the responsibility. So, the madam knew she had to take Vincent's questioning on behalf of Prince Lance. Margaret Seymour waited on the side with anticipation. After all, someone had to be in charge of the Marquisate, right? If the madam couldn't be in charge, then it would be her. Just as Margaret Seymour stepped forward with a smile, she heard Vincent say, "From now on, Claire will be in charge of the Marquisate. Anyone who disobeys will be dealt with according to the Marquisate's rules." After Vincent's words, Claire Crawford went from being an assistant manager to the actual manager of the Marquisate, turning misfortune into fortune. Once everyone left Peach Blossom Pavilion, Prince Lance stayed behind. Claire Crawford instructed others to tidy up, and Willow Green, being very clever, understood Claire Crawford's intentions and put away the jewelry box. After all, it contained some items given by Prince Quin, and if Prince Lance discovered them, it might lead to another storm. Chapter 29, Fragile Alliance. That day, Prince Lance stayed at Claire Crawford's place for a long time. One person was silent, while the other looked around. If Claire Crawford could have told him to leave, she certainly wouldn't have been polite to Prince Lance. Unfortunately, since he had just helped her, she couldn't immediately send him away. However, Claire Crawford felt that after seeing the face of the Qin prince, looking back at Prince Lance was like comparing Shishir to Dongshir, somewhat straining her eyes. "I've helped you, shouldn't you help me a bit in return? You understand the concept of reciprocation, don't you?" Prince Lance wandered around the Peach Blossom Pavilion for a while before suddenly saying this, which left Claire Crawford a bit puzzled. So she smiled and asked, "Oh? How does your highness hope this humble girl can assist you?" Claire Crawford didn't understand Prince Lance's intentions, so she followed his lead. Moreover, after seeing the Qin prince's face, Claire Crawford decided to assist him. Even if it was just a face resembling his, she wanted to fulfill his wish. This meant she had to eliminate Prince Lance. Previously, she didn't want to take risks and kept her distance from Prince Lance, but now it was different. She wanted to help the Qin prince eliminate Prince Lance, so she couldn't keep too far from him. "You are my future princess, your father should have explained some principles to you. You just need to be of one mind with me, and I won't mistreat you in the future." Prince Lance tried to take Claire Crawford's hand, but she skillfully avoided it. "Tomorrow, I'll come to take you out for a stroll," he said, not adding anything else. Claire Crawford only responded with a yes, but she felt something was off. Why was everything fine before, and suddenly Prince Lance said those words? It seemed like a warning, reminding her of her status. As Claire Crawford pondered, Willow Green rushed in, saying, "Miss, a hairpin is missing from your jewelry box." "Huh?" Claire Crawford was taken aback. "A hairpin was missing? Have you searched thoroughly? Which hairpin is missing?" Claire Crawford asked. Willow Green had searched thoroughly but couldn't find it, so she came to Claire Crawford. "Miss, it's the magnolia hairpin." "The magnolia hairpin? A gift from the Qin prince?" Claire Crawford vaguely felt something was wrong. Today, only Prince Lance had been wandering around the Peach Blossom Pavilion, but if he took it and recognized it as a gift from the Qin prince, wouldn't he confront her? How could he hold back? But if he didn't recognize it, why would Prince Lance take her hairpin? In the study of the Marquis residence, Prince Lance hadn't left and went to meet Vincent. The alliance between Prince Lance and Vincent was partly to assist Prince Lance in gaining more power and partly to use Vincent's skills to eliminate those he wanted to remove. "I only asked the Marquis to eliminate one person, but it seems the Marquis failed." Prince Lance seemed to question, but his tone remained pleasant. Vincent knew what Prince Lance was referring to. The assassins he sent that day had all perished. Vincent suddenly felt that the seemingly frivolous Qin prince might possess hidden strength he wasn't aware of. Previously, he thought siding with Prince Lance to eliminate the Qin prince would earn him favor with Prince Lance. But now Vincent had other considerations. For instance, why was Prince Lance so determined to act against the Qin prince? Moreover, the Qin prince had always been on good terms with Prince Lance, so why the sudden urgency to eliminate him? Vincent, always at the pinnacle of power, wouldn't act rashly on matters he didn't fully understand. Prince Lance, you overestimate the difficulty. Eliminating an idle prince is within my capability, but it seems you've hidden some things from me. Knowing he was at a disadvantage, Prince Lance replied, then I'll handle it myself. Tomorrow, I'll invite the third Miss Crawford to the first tower. The Marquis won't object, will he? Vincent frowned. He still didn't understand why Prince Lance wanted to kill the Qin prince, but Prince Lance's intention to take Claire Crawford to the first tower seemed suspicious. It was as if he wanted to sever all lines of communication between him and the Qin prince. Currently, Vincent couldn't refuse, so he agreed with Prince Lance. The young lady is soon to be your future princess, naturally she must prioritize you, Vincent said, and only then did Prince Lance leave. Afterward, Claire Crawford was summoned to the study by Vincent. Currently, the Marquis residence was under Claire Crawford's control, which was Vincent's way of winning her over, and Claire Crawford understood this well. Father, you were looking for me. Claire Crawford was pondering the meaning behind Prince Lance's words today when Vincent summoned her to the study. However, based on her observations, Vincent seemed different than usual today. I called you here today to remind you of a couple of things, Vincent said, setting down the information someone had delivered to him. Claire's sharp eyes caught the name Eric Stewart on the document. Was he investigating Prince Eric? Why? Previously, Vincent had sent assassins, and now he was suddenly sending someone to investigate. Why the change? Does Prince Lance have plans to meet you tomorrow? When you go out, be cautious. Your every move is linked to the Marquis estate. You must understand that some matters are best left alone, Vincent advised. Although Claire didn't fully understand, she obediently nodded. Father, I will remember your teachings. Vincent was pleased with her compliance. Among his three daughters, he knew very well that Vincent Crawford favored his adopted son, who wasn't suitable for heavy responsibilities. Emily Crawford liked Prince Lance too much, which made her unreliable. Only Claire Crawford was someone he could effectively utilize. Claire left the study, carefully considering Vincent's words. The room smelled of amber, likely from Prince Lance. It seemed Prince Lance and Vincent had met and possibly discussed something in the study. However, Vincent's words suggested their negotiations had failed. It appeared the relationship between Prince Lance and Vincent wasn't as solid as it seemed. Nevertheless, Claire was worried about Prince Lance holding a grudge over a lost hairpin and potentially causing trouble. Because of the hairpin, Claire had a restless night, haunted by nightmares of her former fiancé dying in her arms. She awoke drenched in cold sweat. It wasn't until Prince Lance sent someone for her that she left with his entourage, only to see Vincent watching her from a dark hallway, as if reminding her of something. Claire nodded at Vincent before boarding Prince Lance's carriage. The carriage was luxurious but unlike the ones Prince Lance usually used. For a simple outing, whether to the first pavilion or shopping, Prince Lance shouldn't have brought a carriage resembling a prison transport. Though disguised, Claire could tell. Once activated, even the most skilled martial artist couldn't escape from this carriage. So, what exactly did Prince Lance intend to use her for? Claire showed no outward sign but pondered Prince Lance's purpose. She was the third daughter of the Crawfords, Vincent's child, and Vincent had reminded her of her status. This must be related to Prince Eric. The orchid hairpin. Claire vaguely sensed something was amiss. As she and Prince Lance entered the first pavilion, she noticed his people were present there too. Your Highness, it seems you still don't trust me, Claire remarked with a faint smile, thinking she might have guessed Prince Lance's intentions. Prince Lance, observing closely, likely knew the orchid hairpin was a gift from Prince Eric. He intended to use it for something. Are you worthy of my trust? No matter, beauty, I will give you a chance to redeem yourself, Prince Lance replied. Claire realized Prince Lance had set up an ambush in the first pavilion. However, she couldn't understand how Prince Lance could capture someone with just an orchid hairpin. Chapter 30, You owe me a life. It seems Prince Lance has his own plans, which is why he treats her this way. However, Claire Crawford remains calm, looking down at the carriage below. It appears this is the carriage Prince Lance prepared for King Tan. But Prince Lance cannot capture someone without cause, so what he must do now is lure King Tan here. Claire Crawford glanced at the first tower and smiled. Your Highness Prince Lance, since it has come to this, why not tell me, what secret have you hidden in this first tower? If Prince Lance hadn't plotted anything at the first tower, then King Tan's arrival would be in vain. If Prince Lance is waiting for King Tan to arrive, then there must be something in the first tower that could endanger King Tan, allowing Prince Lance to capture him without being blamed by the Emperor. Claire Crawford thought, if she guessed correctly, it must be related to General Rei Qin. Truly worthy of being my future princess, so clever. Since it has come to this, it doesn't hurt to tell you. As Prince Lance finished speaking, King Tan arrived. Claire Crawford was anxious but had to listen to Prince Lance's explanation. King Tan was smart enough, yet he was still deceived into coming to the first tower. Prince Lance pointed to a person over there, who was sitting as if waiting for someone. The deputy of General Rei Qin. He arranged a meeting, and my brother is so attentive to General Rei Qin that he will surely come. Claire Crawford still felt strange. What did this have to do with her jade orchid hairpin? Then can your Highness Prince Lance return the jade orchid hairpin to me? Claire Crawford was truly a bit anxious. She shouldn't have hastily revealed her leverage to Prince Lance like that. But since King Tan had arrived at the first tower, she had to thwart Prince Lance's plan this time. That's why she mentioned the jade orchid hairpin. Miss Crawford, don't forget, you are my future princess. You shouldn't accept an engagement token from King Tan. The jade orchid at King Tan's place signifies an engagement. Did you not know, or was it intentional? Engagement? Claire Crawford truly didn't know about these things. When King Tan gave her the jade orchid hairpin, he didn't mention it, so she didn't ask. So, what does Prince Lance mean by saying these words today? So, is Prince Lance jealous now? Claire Crawford smirked mischievously. Seeing Prince Lance speak like this, she had a different plan in mind. The Prince of Tan did indeed give a hairpin, and for that, I must thank Prince Lance's household for not being strict, allowing the Prince of Tan, in his drunken state, to meet the goddess. If Prince Lance truly cherishes the goddess, he should show it in some way, as jealousy is the most petty of emotions. Claire Crawford said this deliberately to distract Prince Lance from thinking about the Prince of Tan. When a man is jealous, his mind tends to lose focus. Thus, she could inform King Qin better. Moreover, her boldness towards Prince Lance was also due to the words of Marquis Crawford. Now, even if she offended Prince Lance, Marquis Crawford would not make things difficult for her. Jealous? Third Miss Crawford, you flatter yourself too much. The orchid hairpin in Prince Lance's hand was revealed, and he planned to throw it at King Qin once he captured him. However, Claire Crawford's sharp eyes spotted it and snatched it away. Isn't this the orchid hairpin? Claire Crawford deliberately dragged Prince Lance into a jealous scene, holding the hairpin and laughing. Prince Lance's expression changed, as if a small secret in his heart had been exposed, making him somewhat embarrassed and angry. He had always been praised by everyone, convinced that Claire Crawford was his future princess, but unexpectedly, after helping Claire Crawford deal with the people from Lady Vincent's residence, he discovered that Claire Crawford had connections with King Qin. If King Qin learned of his secret mission to the northwest, he would surely die. Moreover, he wasn't the only one who wanted to eliminate King Qin, many others wanted King Qin dead. Therefore, Prince Lance dared to plot here, waiting for King Qin to walk into the trap. But currently, the only thing on Prince Lance's mind was being exposed by Claire Crawford. A man being exposed for jealousy over another man naturally led to a furious outburst. However, Claire Crawford was quicker, causing a commotion before Prince Lance could get angry. For example, she slammed the table in front of her. They were on the second floor, so slamming the table wasn't a big deal, but the key point was that as soon as King Qin stepped onto the first floor, Claire Crawford slammed the table, knocking it down to the first floor, scaring the diners below. Your Highness Prince Lance, my temper is like this, as you can see. Many pursue me, and although I am promised to you, I hope one day you will be wholeheartedly devoted to me. My father loves me dearly, and if I don't want to marry you, he will support me. Claire Crawford intentionally mentioned her father, Vincent. Prince Lance recalled the not-so-pleasant conversation with Vincent earlier. It was clear that Vincent was reluctant to personally eliminate King Tan, indicating some hesitation on his part. Vincent was truly a cunning old fox, swaying with the wind. Prince Lance felt a bit of a headache. He needed to secure Claire Crawford's loyalty to ensure Vincent would wholeheartedly follow him. "Your Highness Prince Lance, please take care. I must take my leave," Claire Crawford said, then descended the stairs, coincidentally encountering King Tan. Claire Crawford couldn't say much to King Tan. Although she was causing trouble today, Prince Lance was no fool. If he figured it out, it would be difficult for her to leave today. She took King Tan's arm and said, "Your Highness King Tan, I would like to trouble you to escort me back home." After saying this, she turned back to look at Prince Lance. It was as if a young girl was acting out of jealousy, deliberately doing unimaginable things to make a man jealous, and Prince Lance wouldn't suspect much. Eric Stewart still didn't understand what was going on. As soon as he stepped in, he saw Claire Crawford arguing with Prince Lance and realized something was wrong on the first floor. In fact, he had no intention of meeting the deputy of General Phoenix Quinn anymore. He just wanted to assess the situation. Unexpectedly, he ran into Claire Crawford. And she could pull off such a stunt. This woman had indeed changed. She would never have been so reckless before, yet now she dared to openly entangle with him in front of everyone. "You owe me a life." Claire Crawford got into the carriage of Prince Lance, not worried about how to explain to Vincent. After all, this was the best way a third Miss Crawford like her could handle the situation. Obedience was key. Vincent would surely be pleased if everything was handled well, otherwise, it would cause him concern. Upon returning, she just needed to plead for forgiveness and shed a few tears, and Vincent would certainly not pursue the matter further. Eric Stewart looked at Claire Crawford's smug demeanor, truly reluctant to tell her that he was actually already prepared. "All right, I owe Miss Crawford a great favor. So, how would you like me to repay it?" Eric Stewart couldn't pretend any longer. Prince Lance intended to kill him, so there was no need to continue feigning allegiance to him. However, this unexpected help from Claire Crawford was indeed a surprising gain. "Repay with your life," Claire Crawford said without blinking, immediately suggesting repayment with his life. Eric Stewart truly thought he misheard and, sitting in the carriage, looked astonished as he asked again, "What did Miss Crawford say?" Claire Crawford had chosen Eric Stewart, so naturally, she had to be close to him. Since the Crawford family didn't intend to personally eliminate Prince Lance, perhaps she could use the family's hesitation to have them marry her off to Prince Lance. This might also be an opportunity. "Naturally, it's for His Highness Prince Quinn to repay with his own body," Claire Crawford said very seriously. Eric Stewart then lifted Claire Crawford's chin with his jade fan. Looking left and right, it was indeed Claire Crawford. But, isn't this change a bit too drastic? Earlier, she acted as if avoiding a venomous snake, and now she wants him to repay with his body? Chapter 31, he feels his head turning green. "Your Highness, we've arrived at the Marquis's residence." Seven Moon, outside the carriage, was quite oblivious, interrupting just as an important conversation was taking place. Claire Crawford smiled lightly. She didn't like to beat around the bush. Having made up her mind to help Eric Stewart, she had to act. For instance, at this moment, when she saw Eric Stewart, it was as if she was looking at her fiancé from a past life. In her past life, she owed him a lot, ruining many of his affairs. Thinking back, she always felt regretful. Now, having the chance, she naturally wouldn't let it slip by. "If I can persuade my father to abandon Prince Lance and choose you instead, would you, Your Highness, be willing to repay me with your body?" Claire Crawford asked earnestly. Even though they were at the Marquis's gate, she was still seriously awaiting Eric Stewart's answer. If he chose to refuse, Claire Crawford would not force him. However, from that day forward, she would never entangle herself with him again. But if he agreed, Claire Crawford would do her utmost to help Eric Stewart fulfill his wishes, to accomplish what he wanted. "It seems that if I refuse today, I won't have another chance to be close to you in the future, right?" Eric Stewart saw a glint of determination in Claire Crawford's eyes. So, where else could he find such a decisive woman if he let her slip away? So, what is your Highness's answer? Claire Crawford curved her lips into a smile, waiting for Eric Stewart's response. Naturally, I must repay with my own body. To have such a beauty by my side, I couldn't ask for more, Eric Stewart thought. Even though he felt the Crawford family wasn't worthy of standing on the same front as him, Claire Crawford wasn't considered part of the Marquis's household. If she marries him in the future, she will belong to him, not to the Marquis's household. Then, Prince Eric, please step out of the carriage. Once you do, you and I will be entangled endlessly, Claire Crawford said. Eric Stewart, maintaining his gentlemanly demeanor, stepped out and helped Claire Crawford down. Unexpectedly, Prince Lance had been waiting at the entrance for a long time, along with Marquis Crawford. Eric Stewart felt a bit awkward, as Marquis Crawford was eager to align with Prince Lance. Seeing Claire Crawford's ambiguous relationship with him was concerning, not because he feared Marquis Crawford, but because he worried about Claire being troubled by him. Prince Lance, Marquis Crawford, my apologies. I saw the lady upset, and since you angered the third Miss Crawford, I took the opportunity to escort her back safely. I'm leaving now, Eric Stewart said, still as carefree as ever, showing no sign of change. However, Marquis Crawford seemed keen on keeping Eric Stewart around. In truth, Marquis Crawford wanted to probe Prince Eric, and now with two options, he intended to choose the one more suitable for him. Claire Crawford sensed Marquis Crawford's thoughts. Prince Eric, since you brought me back, wouldn't you like to come in for some tea? Let's go to my peach blossom pavilion for a cup. Claire Crawford feigned anger towards Prince Lance, deliberately pulling Prince Eric along to provoke him. It was a petty move, but even if word got out, it wouldn't matter. After all, it was Prince Lance who upset her, and she was merely being playful. So, when Claire Crawford took Prince Eric into the Marquis's residence, Prince Lance turned green with envy. He had worked hard to lower his pride to appease Claire, only to see her flirting with Prince Eric right in front of him. Worse, she ignored him and invited Prince Eric inside for tea. Marquis Crawford, aren't you going to do something? Prince Lance could only turn to Marquis Crawford for help, hoping he would say a few words or drive Prince Eric away. Claire Crawford was his betrothed, given by the Emperor, and if she left with Prince Eric, it would be a blow to his pride. But Marquis Crawford realized that if Prince Lance was so wary of Prince Eric, there must be a secret between them. Prince Eric wasn't as easy to deal with as he seemed. Although the Emperor didn't favor him, Marquis Crawford couldn't cut off all his options. He certainly couldn't send Prince Eric away now. Prince Lance, this is a matter for you young people. I'm too old to meddle. My daughter is my most beloved, so it's best for you to win her over, Marquis Crawford said, leaving Prince Lance frustrated. However, he had to maintain appearances and couldn't openly oppose them. Thus, Prince Lance joined them at the Peach Blossom Pavilion. Marquis Crawford was delighted. Previously, he hadn't realized how capable his daughter was, managing to have both Prince Lance and Prince Eric vying for her attention. Last night, he received information that Prince Eric's maternal family had left him a vast treasure, enough to rival a nation. Although it was a legend, it was enough for Prince Eric to survive. The Emperor was wary of Prince Eric but hadn't acted against him. Marquis Crawford began plotting, such as investigating the truth about Prince Eric. If true, the future ruler was uncertain. Wealth equates to power. Prince Eric had led troops before and still had influence in the military. Combined with the treasure, choosing Prince Eric seemed more advantageous than Prince Lance. Inside the Peach Blossom Pavilion, it was lively. Prince Eric sat on one side, Prince Lance on the other, requiring Willow Green to serve everything in duplicate, identical in every way. Any slight difference would anger Prince Lance. Here, try this dessert. Prince Lance offered a piece of dessert to Claire Crawford, placing it in front of her. Eric Stewart calmly said, "This is the breakfast from Peach Blossom Pavilion. Miss Crawford eats it every day, she might get tired of it." Prince Lance angrily huffed and shouted, "Eric Stewart, my father said you have no respect for authority, and it's true. What do you mean by this? I am your elder brother, how can you treat me like this? Claire is your sister-in-law. Do you know that you shouldn't joke about a brother's wife?" Eric Stewart smiled slightly, but before he could say anything, Claire Crawford spoke up. Your Highness Prince Lance, I am not yet married to you. If I don't see genuine affection from you, I'd rather become a nun than marry you. Prince Lance's face looked as if he had been slapped, and he finally stormed off in anger. Eric Stewart stood by watching the scene unfold, unsure of what to say. Claire Crawford is indeed sharp-tongued and not someone to provoke. Now, it's your turn, Your Highness, Prince Tan. Claire Crawford took a sip of the tea in front of her and tossed the pastry Prince Lance had given her to the ground. Eric Stewart immediately focused intently, showing he was listening. My father is not someone who easily changes his mind. Once I've chosen you, Your Highness, shouldn't you stop hiding things from me? Eric Stewart knew Claire Crawford was intelligent and never intended to hide anything from her. However, her early discovery was indeed unexpected for him. In fact, everything had started long ago, from the day Claire Crawford discussed scale with him. Eric Stewart wanted Claire Crawford to be like him, so everything began from that moment. What Vincent knew was also because Eric Stewart allowed him to know, but he didn't expect the one most eager to change would be Claire Crawford. Her transformation was unrelated to his plan, and she didn't even hesitate to shield him from a fatal blow, which truly surprised Eric Stewart. Chapter 32, for the sake of this king's body, let's drink. I'm not hiding anything, but it's true that this king is wealthy beyond measure. Perhaps your father is greedy for wealth, Eric Stewart said, and he wasn't joking. Claire Crawford believed that Lord Crawford was indeed a man greedy for money and power. Typically, such people don't meet a good end. Who wouldn't be tempted by wealth? Claire Crawford could understand, after all, someone like Lord Crawford had no principles. But as long as Lord Crawford wanted something, he could gradually make him give up on Prince Lance. Very true, then, for the sake of this king's body, shall we drink a cup? Let's use tea instead of wine, Eric Stewart proposed, raising his teacup. Claire Crawford joined him in finishing the tea. Today, they reached an agreement. From now on, they would work together, united in their efforts. After that, the prince often visited the manor, diligently trying to win favor. For instance, knowing Lord Crawford liked fine tea, he offered the best, and knowing he enjoyed tender lamb, he sent lambs to the manor. These were things Prince Lance never did. The prince, lacking much dignity, didn't mind whether Lord Crawford thought he was trying to curry favor or seeking support. Lord Crawford enjoyed it all. Compared to someone whose attention was solely on his daughter, someone less favored but adept at flattering him and his daughter was preferable. Eric Stewart's strategy was clever. Although Lord Crawford didn't explicitly show support for the prince, each visit allowed him access to the Peach Blossom Pavilion. Trying to win over my father again? Claire Crawford remarked when she saw Eric Stewart arrive happily, knowing he must have pleased someone to gain entry to the pavilion. Eric Stewart and Claire Crawford remained patient, waiting for Prince Lance to falter first. However, Prince Lance wasn't foolish. He knew that showing anger now wasn't the best move, especially since Lord Crawford hadn't officially agreed to support the prince. Prince Lance still had to use a bit of strategy. Gifting Marquis Crawford the fine wine he likes, isn't that just a way to curry favor with him so I can meet the beauty? Eric Stewart always had a smooth tongue with her, while Claire Crawford was more reserved in comparison. You flatter him like this every day, and people outside say you're clinging to my father's coattails, calling you a coward. Claire Crawford had heard all sorts of rumors about Prince Tan. For example, that he was a philanderer, an uneducated scoundrel, or someone abandoned by the emperor who now seeks to ingratiate himself with Marquis Crawford. Eric Stewart paid no mind to these rumors, living carefree and enjoying life more than anyone. For instance, at this moment, he was calmly eating plum blossom cakes at the Peach Blossom Pavilion, as if nothing had happened. But Claire Crawford knew that this man, who seemed as gentle as a white rabbit, was actually a fierce tiger who devoured everything in his path. Everything was under his control, which allowed him to remain so composed. Rest assured, you don't want to marry Prince Lance, and your father likely doesn't want that either. He believes there is a treasure with me, and he will surely find a daughter he can easily manipulate to obtain it. You are the most suitable. Claire Crawford truly didn't know what to say. How could he calculate everything so precisely? It seems that Prince Tan truly intends to repay with his own life. Claire Crawford also knew that if Marquis Crawford changed his mind, she would be the easiest to control. Marquis Crawford only cared about benefits, and although Claire Crawford felt sorrowful, she had chosen Eric Stuart herself. Looking at his face, it was better than Prince Lance's, wasn't it? Alright, if you want me to repay with my life, you must first break off the engagement with Prince Lance. However, Prince Lance won't be able to tolerate it for long. I predict that in the coming days, he will surely invite you to the palace to declare his claim. Claire Crawford was already wary of this. Prince Lance was sinister and would secretly use schemes. Sure enough, within a few days, Prince Lance invited Claire Crawford to a private banquet held by royal consort Florence. Claire Crawford essentially had no way to refuse, as the royal decree from royal consort Florence had already been sent to the Marquis's residence. Not attending would be seen as arrogance. But attending meant she was aware of Prince Lance's ill intentions, and yet she couldn't avoid going. Thus, she thought of seeking Marquis Crawford's advice, as her father changed his mind frequently, and consulting him would naturally make it easier to act. In the study, Marquis Crawford had received news about Prince Tan. For example, there were people in the Northwest Army contacting Prince Tan and Marquis. Crawford's own spies had witnessed it firsthand. Therefore, when Claire Crawford came to see Marquis Crawford, he already had other plans. Compared to Prince Lance, who only had the Emperor's favor, Marquis Crawford naturally preferred Prince Tan, who had military influence and treasure. Father, I'm here to seek your advice about the palace banquet hosted by royal consort Florence. Claire Crawford was intelligent and knew to consult Marquis Crawford about these matters. Doing so would naturally make Marquis Crawford trust her as someone easy to control. Claire, you are the most understanding daughter a father could have. You've never disappointed me, and I know this time will be no different. At the banquet in Weiyang Palace, be cautious of royal consort Florence, understood? Lord Crawford never spoke explicitly, but he trusted that Claire Crawford would grasp his meaning. After all, lately, not only has Prince Lance been visiting, but King Qin has also sought out Claire Crawford. Claire looked at Lord Crawford and replied, Father, I naturally understand your intentions. However, at the palace banquet, it's hard to avoid encountering Prince Qin. I'm afraid royal consort Florence might hold me accountable. Rumors were spreading that Claire Crawford and Prince Qin had developed feelings for each other, and Prince Lance's presence at Weiyang Palace today was to assert his claim. As Prince Lance's future consort, she would undoubtedly face challenges from royal consort Florence. Don't worry, I will always be your support, Lord Crawford reassured her, patting Claire's shoulder, and she understood his intent. Shortly after, Vincent Crawford arrived. Seeing him, Lord Crawford instructed, at Prince Lance's banquet today, take your sister along. She shouldn't spend all day cooped up in her own world, doing nothing. Claire glanced at Vincent, knowing that if Lord Crawford wanted her to choose Prince Qin, then Prince Lance would likely be paired with another daughter. It could only be Vincent Crawford or Emily Crawford. Claire initially thought Lord Crawford would choose Emily, as she was Margaret Seymour's daughter and easier to control. But Claire couldn't understand why he chose Vincent, who was notoriously difficult. Not to mention, Vincent had little interest in Prince Lance and, being the legitimate daughter, was unlikely to be easily manipulated. However, Claire Crawford said nothing, while Vincent Crawford's opposition was quite clear. Father, I don't want to enter the palace, I don't want to meet Prince Lance. As soon as Vincent Crawford finished speaking, she was slapped by Lord Crawford. Vincent Crawford, being the legitimate daughter of the Marquisate, always held a noble status, and both Lord Crawford and the First Lady adored her. This was the first time Lord Crawford had shown such anger. Disrespectful, your father has his own thoughts about the arrangements. If you dare to defy me, then you might as well not stay in this house anymore. Put away your useless thoughts, you must attend the banquet today. Vincent Crawford, feeling deeply wronged by the slap, soon had tears welling up in her eyes. Seeing this, Claire Crawford stepped forward to comfort her. Second sister was just joking with father, please don't be angry. I will take good care of second sister at the banquet today. Lord Crawford was somewhat comforted by this and glanced at Claire Crawford, saying, you are the sensible one, my love for you is not in vain. If your sister could be half as understanding as you, I wouldn't have to worry so much. Chapter 33, A snake causes a stir. As soon as the two left the study, Vincent Crawford pushed Claire Crawford away. Stop pretending to be virtuous with me. Do you think I can't see through your schemes? Despite Vincent Crawford's temper, Claire Crawford felt that at least she wasn't as terrible as Emily Crawford. Emily was the one truly doing evil deeds, whereas Vincent hadn't reached that level. Second sister, you wrong me. I have always respected you, how could I be insincere? Vincent Crawford didn't listen to Claire's words at all. She shot her a glance and walked away. Even when they both got into the carriage, Vincent Crawford didn't smile. She naturally understood Lord Crawford's intentions. Coupled with her mother's analysis of the situation the previous night, and seeing the First Lady's delight, Vincent knew things were amiss. She never cared for Prince Lance. If possible, she only wanted to marry someone she loved, not be forced into a marriage with someone she didn't like. The carriage slowly entered the royal palace, and Prince Lance personally came out to greet them. Claire Crawford remained silent, but Vincent Crawford hinted, Prince Lance truly cares for our third sister. It seems if she marries him in the future, she will be very happy. Today, Prince Lance intended to assert his claim, and with many witnesses, rumors would surely spread that he favored Claire. Crawford. Claire smiled gently and said, I can give this happiness to you, second sister. Would you like it? I am inseparable from my sisters, how could I not want my second sister to be happy? The verbal sparring ended when Vincent Crawford's expression changed. In the royal banquet, seating arrangements held significant meaning. Claire Crawford went to greet royal consort Florence and was indeed mocked a few times. However, royal consort Florence candidly stated, Claire Crawford, as the fiancée of my son, you are naturally someone I hold dear. You must always remember your status, both in front of others and behind their backs. Status? Claire Crawford met royal consort Florence in the side hall, with no one else around, so she naturally spoke her mind. Your Highness, rest assured, if Prince Lance is truly exceptional, I have no complaints. My father always advised me that when marrying, I should wed the most outstanding young man in the capital. Royal consort Florence did not catch the sarcasm in Claire's words. To her, the most outstanding young man was naturally her son, Prince Lance, who was currently highly favored and admired by many. Later, royal consort Florence personally led Claire Crawford into the banquet, which many people noticed. Wasn't it said that the third Miss Crawford loves Prince Qin? Someone remarked upon seeing the two entering so closely. Don't speak nonsense. I heard Prince Qin is fond of the third Miss Crawford, which is why he tries so hard to please the Crawford family, another person joined in the discussion. The daughter of the grand historian laughed, in my opinion, the third Miss Crawford is quite the charmer. Unlike us, who wouldn't dare dream of such things, she manages to captivate two princes at once. Everyone laughed and added, Prince Lance is favored by the Emperor, and Prince Qin is handsome. Either way, she stands to gain. Claire Crawford heard this but found it inappropriate to comment at the moment. However, this was precisely the effect she desired, letting everyone know that her relationship with Prince Lance was strained, while she also had ties to Prince Qin. She wasn't in a hurry for a conclusion but aimed for a love triangle. Claire was seated next to Prince Lance. During the feast, Prince Lance was attentive to her, but unexpectedly, Prince Qin also arrived. Previously, Prince Qin always wore a mask, but today he removed it, dressed in a purple robe with a golden crown, holding a jade fan, his distinctive phoenix eyes mesmerizing the women present. Eric Stuart, though not favored by the Emperor, could easily win the admiration of the noble women in the capital with his looks alone. Your Highness, I apologize for being late, Eric Stuart smiled and, without waiting for royal consort Florence's response, directly approached the seat next to Claire Crawford. The seat was occupied by the daughter of the grand historian, but Eric Stuart asked her, could this beautiful lady allow me to sit here? Nearly entranced by Eric's appearance, the daughter quickly stood up, saying, please, Prince Qin, take the seat. As she felt proud to dine with Prince Qin, Eric's attention remained on Claire Crawford. Third Miss Crawford, I've taken another step closer to you. Eric boldly sat beside her, even with Prince Lance and royal consort Florence present, openly pursuing Claire Crawford, seemingly challenging Prince Lance. Prince Qin, your actions are increasingly disrespectful. Claire is the fiancée appointed by the Emperor to Prince Lance and is destined to be his future consort. You must show respect, royal consort Florence lectured at length, nearly causing Claire to laugh. Although her engagement was indeed decreed by the emperor, a date had yet to be set. Previously, the emperor mentioned letting the cabinet decide the date, but who would dare delay once the emperor spoke? Yet, the emperor never set a date, indicating either interference by the Crawford family or his own indecision. The position of Prince Lance as the future consort may need to be reconsidered. I love beauty, why should the royal consort be tense? Eric Stuart smiled as he looked at royal consort Florence. In reality, royal consort Florence's sudden favor over the years was due to Prince Lance. But since he had no allies in the palace, there was nothing to fear. Royal consort Florence and Prince Lance shared their fortunes and misfortunes, but he was alone. Even if he flirted with Claire Crawford, could royal consort Florence really complain to the emperor? And even if she did, what would happen? At most, the emperor would scold him, but not punish him severely, while royal consort Florence would face embarrassment. Constantly complaining to the emperor might even lead to his displeasure. Claire Crawford said nothing and just smiled. Today was supposed to be royal consort Florence's event, but Eric Stuart's antics spoiled the mood. However, no one expected a snake to appear at the banquet. The snake, entirely green, suddenly lunged at Claire Crawford. Prince Lance reacted quickly, hiding behind the guards, while Claire Crawford was trapped in front. In a critical moment, the king pulled Claire Crawford back, but the snake still managed to bite her leg. Afterward, the snake vanished, but Claire Crawford had been bitten. No one move, I've heard that if bitten by a venomous snake, moving will cause the venom to spread faster, and someone needs to suck the venom out immediately, Eric Stuart said, looking at Prince Lance hiding behind the guards. Prince Lance, aren't you going to help? Prince Lance couldn't possibly help Claire Crawford by sucking out the venom. Protecting his own life was more important. Seeing Prince Lance's silence, Eric Stuart approached, placed his jade fan aside, and helped Claire Crawford to a chair. Chapter 34, he becomes a laughingstock. Eric Stuart, disregarding his own safety, knelt down, tore the fabric from Claire Crawford's leg, and sucked out the venom himself. When the royal physician arrived and checked Claire Crawford's pulse, he announced, fortunately, the king acted promptly. After the venom was removed, Miss Crawford just needs a few doses of medicine to recover. However, this situation was awkward for Prince Lance. Claire Crawford was supposed to be his future consort, yet it was the king who saved her. Royal consort Florence spoke up, Prince Lance, take Claire home and have the physician check her daily. Claire Crawford being bitten by a venomous snake in royal consort Florence's palace was no small matter. Royal consort Florence needed to investigate why a venomous snake appeared in the palace. She wanted to downplay the incident, but Claire Crawford wasn't going to let it go easily. Royal consort, a venomous snake appeared at your banquet. If not for the king's bravery, I might have died today, let alone marry Prince Lance in the future. I won't trouble Prince Lance anymore. If the king is available, could you escort me home? Claire Crawford openly embarrassed the royal consort, but her reaction was understandable. After all, Claire Crawford harbored resentment. Prince Lance fled, while the king shielded her, making everyone see the king as more honorable than Prince Lance. Royal consort Florence couldn't escalate the situation further and could only watch as Claire Crawford left with the king. Prince Lance had intended to use the banquet to announce Claire Crawford as his fiancée, but he ended up as the laughingstock. Eric Stuart and Claire Crawford left the palace together in the same carriage. No need to thank me. Ow, what are you doing? It hurts. Seven Moon, outside the carriage, dared not look inside, but Eric Stuart's cries were unmistakable. Claire Crawford bit Eric Stuart hard on the arm. King, I was bitten by a venomous snake, thanks to you. Though it was not poisonous, it was painful. I thought you should feel a bit of the pain yourself. Eric Stuart did not deny it. This approach, though somewhat risky, also has its advantages. For instance, the entangled relationship between him and Claire Crawford has now become a complete barrier between Prince Lance. Another example is royal consort Florence's negligent management of the harem, resulting in the appearance of venomous snakes, a serious oversight for which she is culpable. This brat has quite the bite, Eric Stuart remarked, looking at his arm, bitten hard without mercy. Upon reaching the Marquis's residence, Claire Crawford got off the carriage by herself and returned to Peach Blossom Pavilion on her own. There was no need to explain to Vincent personally. Today, she had indeed offended royal consort Florence, but what's done is done, and Vincent couldn't blame her. At the palace gates, Vincent Crawford had been waiting for Prince Lance for a long time. "Your Highness Prince Lance, I've been waiting here for quite some time." Vincent Crawford did not appear when Claire Crawford was in trouble, always hiding in the shadows, behind others. Now, with Prince Lance utterly embarrassed and Claire Crawford taken away by the King of Qin, Vincent Crawford chose this moment to approach Prince Lance. "Vincent Crawford?" Prince Lance glanced at Vincent Crawford. Of the three daughters of the Crawford family, besides Claire Crawford, he was most familiar with Emily Crawford. As for Vincent Crawford, Prince Lance only remembered her as extremely proud. Yet here she was, seeking him out. "Today, Your Highness Prince Lance suffered an injustice. I am indignant on your behalf. My third sister truly should not have been so disrespectful. How about this, tomorrow, I'll host a banquet at the Marquis's residence and invite Your Highness to join us for a drink. I assure you, Your Highness will leave in high spirits. Would you honor us with your presence?" Logically, Prince Lance should have been furious and unlikely to attend Vincent Crawford's banquet. However, there was another meaning in Vincent Crawford's words that Prince Lance somewhat understood. "All right, since you put it that way, I will accept this favor," Prince Lance agreed, and only then did Vincent Crawford leave the palace. The events in the palace had spread throughout the streets and alleys, thanks in part to Eric Stewart, who even had someone turn it into illustrated stories to be recounted at the Storytelling Pavilion. The next evening, Prince Lance attended the party. Vincent was still very cheerful, but the happiest was the matron, who was now disliked by Vincent and couldn't compare to Margaret Seymour in making Vincent happy. Now, her daughter Vincent Crawford invited Prince Lance for drinks, and she felt Vincent Crawford had finally changed, so how could she not be pleased? She ordered plenty of wine and food, hoping her daughter might develop some affection for Prince Lance. "Vincent Crawford, you should know that my coming here is not just to drink and chat with you," Prince Lance said impatiently. He understood the matron's intentions, but unfortunately, his heart was now entirely set on Claire Crawford. The more challenging Claire Crawford was, the more Prince Lance wanted to pursue her and would not easily give up. "Of course, Your Highness Prince Lance, drinking with me is not particularly exciting, but I hope you drink a little more. If you get drunk and end up in the bridal chamber with my third sister, it wouldn't be a problem, just a matter of time," Vincent Crawford said with determination. Ever since she was young, whatever she wanted to do, she would accomplish. Of course, her childhood disputes were mainly verbal spats with Emily Crawford. Now, her target had shifted to Claire Crawford. Vincent Crawford and Prince Lance exchanged smiles, and then a young servant approached Vincent to inform her that everything was ready. Only then did Prince Lance happily drink his last glass of wine. "Let's go, Your Highness Prince Lance, I'll take you there. With the moon so bright, I'll visit my third sister in 2 hours. By then, the rice will have been cooked, and my third sister will surely be in Your Highness Prince Lance's bowl," she said, leading Prince Lance away. There was a small path in Peach Blossom Pavilion, and along that path, there was a tiny dog hole. Prince Lance was taken aback, staring at Vincent Crawford in disbelief. "You want me to crawl through a dog hole?" Vincent Crawford, in fact, had no other choice. She couldn't bribe anyone in Peach Blossom Pavilion, and if she didn't act, she might be the one to marry Prince Lance. Therefore, Vincent Crawford had to take the risk. As the matron couldn't assist her, this was the best plan she could devise. "Your Highness Prince Lance, this wall connects to the inner courtyard of Peach Blossom Pavilion. Climbing over would get you noticed, but if you quietly sneak in, I'm confident you can handle my third sister alone," she spoke frankly. Vincent Crawford believed that as long as Prince Lance could enter Peach Blossom Pavilion, he would surely succeed with Claire Crawford. She wanted something to happen between Claire Crawford and Prince Lance, and then she would lead people in. As long as Prince Lance succeeded, she could walk away unscathed. Thus, Vincent Crawford collaborated with Prince Lance, bringing him to this secluded wall of Peach Blossom Pavilion. Prince Lance now needed Vincent's support and couldn't let Prince Qin win over Vincent. So, cornered, he was forced to crawl through the dog hole and sneak into Claire Crawford's room. At that moment, Claire Crawford had just finished bathing and was preparing for bed, only to discover someone had intruded. She was always alert, and if she hadn't noticed an extra living person in her room, it would have been a waste of her vigilance. However, someone plotting against her indicated their desperation. Unfortunately for Prince Lance, things wouldn't go as he wished, and those plotting against her might also face misfortune together. Chapter 35, a slap to Vincent Crawford's face. Vincent Crawford truly orchestrated a cunning plan. After waiting outside for half a day, she hurriedly led her people to catch them in the act. She had no real interest in Prince Lance. If she couldn't marry the one she loved, even if it were an emperor, she wouldn't care. Thus, she schemed against Claire Crawford. Claire Crawford, don't blame me, blame your bad luck for catching Prince Lance's attention, Vincent Crawford said before ordering her people to break into the Peach Blossom Pavilion.